The transition in UK-EU trade relations post-Brexit isn't just a short-term disruption, it reflects deeper structural changes that are likely to persist. Brexit damage is permanent, not just a blip. This is the conclusion of a recent study by the Aston Business School. This work is a detailed analysis of the longer-term impact of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement on UK-EU trade 3 years after the UK fully left the EU Single Market and Customs Union. The findings reveal sharp declines in UK trade with the EU between 2021 and 2023, exports falling by 27% and imports falling by 32%. The blue line here shows UK exports to the EU in the left-hand chart and to the rest of the world in the right-hand chart. The most recent period shows that after some recovery from COVID, UK exports to the EU have been falling. Exports to the EU from the other countries are much higher. Exports to the rest of the world have been growing in this period, but interestingly at a much lower rate than the other countries. Looking at imports from the EU in the left-hand chart, the blue line shows that UK imports have been much lower than other countries for the same period. And UK imports from the rest of the world have increased significantly and are in line with other countries. So the study highlights that Brexit has caused severe disruptions in the UK-EU supply chain, particularly in consumer and intermediate goods. The UK has really hurt its economy. This isn't the cause of the UK's growth and productivity problem. This does predate Brexit, austerity being one of the prime culprits. However, it's beyond question that from an economic perspective, Brexit is a major blow to the UK economy. Labour's only economic policy really is growth, but growth prospects have been further set back by Brexit. It's like we're in a running race where our ankles have been tied together. I've done quite a few Brexit videos and I've tried to be as fair as possible. My own views about the EU are slightly mixed. I'm an anarchist at heart, a believer in small economic and political units close to the people. So the EU is an absolute monster of big government. However, I really love European countries coming together. And I do feel that my identity is as much European as it is British. But there is one thing in the debate that's beyond all doubt. The economic benefits of UK membership of the EU were absolutely beyond question. The EU is the most sophisticated free trade agreement in the world. It's a remarkable achievement, really. So the UK leaving the EU is very damaging economically. It doesn't mean that the UK economy will be devastated, but it will be significantly worse off compared to if the UK hadn't left the EU. This is strange for a country that really believes in free trade. Last year, when the government announced that the UK is going to join the 11-country Indo-Pacific Free Trade Area, the CPTPP, Prime Minister Sunak said that we are at heart an open and free trading nation. He talked about benefiting from the post-Brexit freedoms. He wasn't wrong that there is a benefit of the UK joining the CPTPP and that it's only possible because of Brexit. But the benefit is tiny. It's insignificant. The government's own estimate is that it will increase GDP by 0.08%. Nothing. The OBR confirms this in its most recent economic outlook. It says that new trade deals with non-EU countries will not have a material impact. But the impact of Brexit on long-run productivity will be a reduction of 4%. Most estimates suggest that GDP is 2 to 3% lower as a result of the UK leaving the EU. It's true that the UK sees itself as an open and free trading nation, but to leave the most sophisticated and extensive free trade agreement is self-harm of major proportions. So conclusions like the Aston Business School's report are not at all a surprise. It confirms the growth and productivity hit caused by the UK leaving the EU. It's made Labour's job to revive the economy much harder. The best growth policy would actually be to rejoin the EU. It's interesting how we now have two political parties moving in that direction. The Green Party explicitly supports rejoining the EU. The Liberal Democrats have set out a plan which includes going back into the single market. As the evidence of the Brexit economic harm piles up, and it's not going to get any better, it will be interesting to see if discussion of rejoining the EU will become more mainstream. My own view is that the UK will not rejoin the EU for the foreseeable future, and I'm not a supporter of the UK going into the single market or having a customs union. I do think that sovereignty is important. We need to have a say over the laws that apply in the UK. So I think that we're stuck with these negative impacts of Brexit. It's not a blip, it's permanent damage. But the UK will be okay, just not as okay as it would have been in the EU. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.